my name is Errette Dunn, CEO and co-founder of Rever. Prior to Rever, I worked in another startup called Reich, and before that I was more in the large corporate world, working for companies like Toyota, Airbus, and Eurocopter. Well, I decided to start my career in Toyota and not in a startup because back then in 2006, this was a time, startups were not even in the radar here in Guadalajara, so it didn't even cross my mind. However, I was looking for a company that could be an example for learning about how to work in processes, how to work in an appropriate system, how to have a boss in order to be a better boss. I had prior, let's say, entrepreneurial experience, but I left that behind in order to learn from larger companies. So that was what I expected. And Toyota in particular, for an industrial engineer like myself, it was the ideal company to work for. They pretty much invented 50% of what I studied, and it was a great school to start with. So the transition from the corporate world to the startup world was pretty radical for me. After working at Toyota, I worked at Airbus and Eurocopter in France. So the transition for me was not just from the size of the companies, from companies that were more than 100,000 employees to just 50 employees. It was also a cultural change in terms of the country, the location, the geography, and everything. For me, it was a breath of fresh air, really. Going from the bureaucratic, slow-moving world of the aeronautics world to the fast-moving pace and casual and action-oriented culture of a startup. I was really, really looking forward to that. So for me, the transition was relatively easy, but I did have to make certain adjustments in my working style due to the increased responsibility that I had in a startup compared to the large companies. I had decided to found a startup a long time before moving to Silicon Valley. Actually, one of the reasons why I moved to Silicon Valley was to find the opportunity, find the inspiration of what to do exactly. So when I moved to Silicon Valley with my family, I didn't know exactly what kind of startup I wanted to found, what kind of product, what kind of service, but I knew that I wanted to start something and start in Silicon Valley to actually absorb the culture and the speed of Silicon Valley. So I always knew I wanted to start something, I didn't know what, when, and how. The moment where I decided to start, the thing is, you're never gonna feel ready. You need a big kick in the butt. You need somebody to push you forward, otherwise you're never gonna start. And for me, that big push was joining the Founder Institute. It's an idea stage incubator that helps people transition from having a full-time job to becoming founders. And it all started actually just by attending a networking event. So I didn't go there to actually decide to join the Founder Institute. I just went there to actually start to know people, get connected and so on, and then they introduced me to the whole concept, and you just gotta tell yourself, why not? And just go and do it. So one of the reasons why, even though we started in the Bay Area, the company, and I decided to actually grow the company, actually develop my whole product here in Guadalajara, was for several reasons. One was the fact that there's amazing talent down here in Guadalajara, and to be honest, at a fraction of the cost that you would find in Silicon Valley. So the same amount of talent at a fraction of the cost. So one part of the decision was economical and also in terms of the quality of work. The other part of the decision is partly as well sentimental. This is my city, this is my town. And I always want to build bridges between what I see in Silicon Valley, what I see here in Guadalajara, and help contribute, to this culture of the startup way of working and doing it with the Silicon Valley culture. So for me, the decision was very clear from the outset.